Hey everyone, it's Stefan. I'm here to give you my TED Talk. My TED Talk is going to be about my Genius Hour project that I had to complete for my digital learning class. For those of you who do not know, my Genius Hour topic was about hockey, and more specifically, it was about how the Canadian NHL teams and the size of their online fan bases. I took that information and compared it to their attendance numbers and made observations and conclusions based on those findings. For this TED Talk, I'm going to take you on a little journey of how I got to my particular topic. What I discovered, some hurdles I had to overcome, and some things I want to explore in more detail. So the reason I chose this topic, mainly is because I love hockey. I mean, I will never miss a Leaf game, and I just love the sport in general. Therefore, when Dave asked us to come up with a topic for our Genius Hour project, my mind immediately went to hockey. The challenge for me, however, was how I could incorporate hockey in my project. So I was thinking for a few days when I decided to go check the Leafs Twitter account, something I do multiple times during the day and week. It didn't dawn on me on how I can incorporate aspects of technology, so social media, in my hockey-related Genius Hour project. I then made the connections between the team's online fan base with its attendance numbers, and that's how I came up with my topic. Excuse me. I also tried to pair or group teams together based on what conference they play in or geographic location. For example, I paired Montreal and Toronto together since they're fairly close and they play in the same division, along with Edmonton, Calgary, and Vancouver together because they're the more Western teams and they play in the Western Conference. Winnipeg and Ottawa were the teams I could not find an obvious pair group for, so I decided to compare them together. So now for the fun stuff. During my project, I concluded there was a direct correlation between the size of a team's online fan base and attendance numbers for the following teams: the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Montreal Canadiens, the Ottawa Senators, and the Winnipeg Jets. For the other three Canadian teams, the Edmonton Oilers, the Calgary Flames, and the Vancouver Canucks, there is not as strong a correlation between the two variables, as the size of their online fan base was quite different, whereas their attendance numbers were similar. They're pretty similar. So those were the major findings, but I still saw some interesting trends emerge, including the fact that all 7 teams did not follow many people back on their social media accounts, which is something I will examine in more detail later on in my TED Talk. The fact that there was always one weird outlier in regards to the online fan base. For instance, Toronto had the most amount of followers on all platforms examined except for Facebook when being compared to Montreal. And finally, the last trend I noticed was for at least 2 of the teams, their percentage of seats sold was over 100%, which I thought was kind of interesting. That includes standing rooms. That's how they come to over 100%. So these are some of the observations I noticed while working on my Genius Hour project, and I hope you find them as interesting as I did. Probably not, though. So continue on with my Genius Hour journey. I'm going to discuss the main hurdle I faced, as every story needs a problem or else it wouldn't be very interesting. So the main issue I faced during this project was that I'm a huge Leafs fan. Therefore, when I was working on my first post for Toronto-Montreal's comparison, I was conflicted as I love Toronto and thus naturally hate Montreal since they're massive rivals. I had to keep on telling myself, just make your conclusions from just the data and nothing else. And that's what I did, and the results of Toronto having a high attendance and social media numbers did not really surprise me, as Toronto, and even Montreal for that matter, are 2 of the most popular teams in NHL, as are all the Canadian teams. Canadian teams are generally seen as being more popular than American teams, with the exception of maybe Boston, Chicago, New York, Minnesota, and Detroit. This is not an exact science, it's just something I have noticed during my life as a big hockey fan. The reasons for this popularity among Canadian teams, in my opinion, is that hockey is Canada's main sport, not national sport, that is lacrosse. Whereas in America, there are many sports that are popular besides hockey: baseball, football, and basketball, and soccer is starting to become more and more popular. So to recap, there were some challenges in my Genius Hour journey with certain biases, especially in the first week. But at the end of the day, I was able to work through them with the results not really surprising me based on my experiences as a hockey fan. As my journey is coming to an end, I'm going to mention some of the things I want to examine in more detail. Part of my last post was on how teams can use social media and technology to increase their online following and thus their attendance numbers. In essence, I put my marketing hat on to try and help these teams become more popular. In my post, I mentioned 3 main ways teams can do this. The first being that teams should try and get fans involved more. They can do this by following more fans on their social media accounts like Twitter or Instagram. This was something, as mentioned above, that all 7 teams did not do, as they only follow around 100 to 200 people on their accounts. I feel that if they follow more fans and interact with them on social media, their popularity will rise. The second way teams can improve their online fan base is very similar to the first way, in that they should engage with fans via social media. Teams should move away from the more traditional, boring content they put on their social media accounts and put on some more engaging content. This could include more videos of team events where fans can get to know the players and coaches more. The last way teams can increase their online following is by having a personalized team app for fans' mobile devices. There is an NHL app, which I have, but there isn't an actual app for each team. I feel this would help with improving a team's fan support, because on this app, teams could put information related only to their teams, including schedules, stats, team events, and ticket giveaways. The ways teams can improve their online following are not overly hard to do. They're just things I have noticed during this process and also during my life as a major hockey fan. So now I want to continue on this journey by similarly talking about things I want to continue to explore related to this topic, but something I did not really talk about in my posts. After doing this project, I realized how fun I had looking at all these stats and marketing tips. As a result, I want to try and examine the online fan bases and their attendance numbers for some of the more non-traditional NHL teams. By non-traditional, I mean teams that aren't in a traditional hockey market. Think warmer climate states where other sports like baseball, basketball, and football are more popular. These teams would include the Dallas Stars, the Arizona Coyotes, the Florida Panthers, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the San Jose Sharks, the Los Angeles Kings, and the Anaheim Ducks. I feel this would be a really interesting examination, as I could see which of these teams had a higher online fan base and attendance numbers, and see if they correlate with each other, as was the case for most of the Canadian teams, which are seen as more traditional NHL teams. Another aspect I could do with these teams is track the growth of their popularity by looking at their attendance numbers over the years. This is something I didn't have time to do in my Genius Hour project, but it's something I would also love to track for the Canadian teams. As a whole, by doing my Genius Hour project, I have come up with a number of things I would like to examine in more detail, and maybe my journey isn't over after all, but for this class it is. Well, that's the end of my Genius Hour story and my TED Talk. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to me describe this wonderful journey I've been on for the last few weeks, and maybe I've inspired you to go watch a hockey game if you haven't before, or maybe even examine the marketing that's involved in professional hockey or sports. Well, that's a wrap. Folks. My name is Stefan, and thanks for listening.